Sheet 3 here. This is a full tutorial for Benjamin's Locker puzzle box, a puzzle box I designed. So when you give someone a puzzle box, you need to tell them first what they're trying to do. So with this puzzle box, the goal is to release the drawer that holds the $100. So $100 inside there. If you can pull this drawer out, then you can get it. Now that's done through a precise sequence of movements of the puzzle box. Okay, it's not done by taking the puzzle box apart. So some of these things, you can see they kind of move and they fidget and they jiggle. There's some pushies, some pulleys, and just some weird things to get your attention on this box. Those are the things you're going to be pushing and pulling, not just taking things apart. There is an exception. If there's something that's a lock or a key, that's obviously a lock or a key, then you can do that. And so with this one, the only part that comes off is just this top key. That's why it's pink while the rest of it's green. So this is the only one. It's locking the puzzle box, and it could also be used as a tool. That's it. Don't bang or drop the box, okay? It's made of Legos. If you drop it on a hard surface, it will shatter into all of its constituent pieces. That's happened to me several times. Don't force moves. So if something feels like it's locked, it's locked. It doesn't need you to pull or push on it harder. If you think it's stuck, don't force it, don't push or pull really hard. It won't just move through nicely, it'll break. So if you think it's stuck, it's probably not stuck. But if you think it is, try jiggling while you push or pull. The pieces move with little resistance or with some resistance, but it's a smooth resistance. It's not just a sudden pop. So when you're putting your puzzle box together, you're gonna have some choices to make. One is the color. So I picked these colors for mine. Green, gray, and white are the main colors. There's some dark green money pieces here, and that sort of gives people clues that they're on the right track as they're releasing those. And then the key is a separate color on top. You could do other schemes too, like yours might look a lot like this one, which is the first one I made, right? So this one's got a lot of different colors. The green ones still are there and they still pop out, but they don't pop out as much because there's a lot going on. If you want to make it harder, you can eliminate the green money pieces and just use gray tiles or something else that doesn't sort of give those clues along the way. So you can make it a solid color if you want. I still recommend always having that key be a different color or a color that stands out so that people feel comfortable taking it. If you don't have a key that pops visually, then you might need to tell them to take that off. Another really important thing is you can make piece substitutions as you go along, but one of the things that you should not make a substitution for are tiles. So tiles are these pieces that are low profile and they're smooth on top. Tiles are have a very specific purposes in here, and even a 1x2 tile can't be replaced usually with two 1x1 tiles or as part of a 1x3 tile. You need to keep the tiles exactly as they are. They're really important. As you go along, I encourage you to make modifications for yourself. Like if you think of a better way to do something, try it out. That's a lot of the fun part of doing puzzle boxes, is coming up with better ways of doing things and things that make it trickier. So if you come up with your own mods to it, I'd love to see those. Post a reply, link to it in my comment section. So it should take you about 1 to 2 hours to build this puzzle box. I designed it so you can build along with me. Freeze or pause the video when I'm got all the pieces laid out so that you can go collect the pieces and organize them, and then hit play on the video and build along with me. That's what this is for. So this should be a fun experience. If you have any questions about the way something works, just hit me up in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button. Let's begin with the cabinet. So the cabinet is the base of the puzzle box. It's also the area that holds the drawer, which is where the prize is located. So it's a pretty important part. This represents literally the bottom half of the puzzle box. And I've laid out all the pieces here. It's not too difficult to build. This is a 2x12, and the puzzle box is 6x12 on the base. We have a 10, 8s, 6s, 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s. These are all plates. We have these 2x2 corner plates. Those are really important in building puzzle boxes because they let you add strength without taking up as much volume as, say, a 2x2 that's not a corner. So we use these 2x2s to create little nooks and crannies that the puzzle box can move around through. We have 2 of these Technic bricks. These are 2x4 bricks with a groove. And that's going to allow the rail of the drawer to slide in and out nicely and give us a stopper. We also have these window pieces are a bit rare. These are 2x1 bricks, but they don't have a rod in the middle of them like the other pieces do here. For example, if you look at these 1x3 bricks, it's got has rods in the middle. Sometimes there's tubes in the middle, but these window pieces don't have that, so that makes them nice for windows. So let's start by just arranging these 4 corner pieces into a square like that. We're going to put these pieces together, and that is the base of our puzzle box. Most of the assemblies start by just sort of laying out the bottom pieces, and then we add strength as we build up and connect them. So we're going to connect this using these tiles. Oh, actually I misplaced that one. That one goes one end there because this green one comes here. I think I have a couple going lengthwise. This starts to connect the base pieces together. This. I notice we still have one floater. That'll get attached a little bit later. You really want to make sure when you're building this to press the pieces firmly in as you go. That way the mechanics don't get hung up, and also it makes it stronger. Let's start with these. Now I chose the colors because I liked the colors. So it's pretty good practice to limit your color scheme to just a few colors. I think 3 is a good number. Or you could just go totally wild and go random with it and just have lots and lots and lots of different colors. There's nothing wrong with that. The colors that I chose also kind of help reveal what the workings on the inside are. And that gives a little bit of clues to the solver, the person solving the puzzle box, what the next step should be. I'm not trying to design one that's so difficult that no one can figure it out. I actually like having clues along the way. When there are clues, you feel a better sense of satisfaction rather than surprise when the puzzle box solves. So for me, I enjoy having little clues along the way, even if it makes it less difficult. It makes it less difficult, but it also makes it tractable, and I think with a more satisfying. You can feel proud of yourself when you follow the clues to solve something and get it, rather than just kind of getting lucky. Okay, now we're going to attach these Technic bricks. Again, these are the ones with the groove, so you want the groove on the inside. And we're going to leave one little notch here. So we'll eventually have this stopper. We'll go here, and that'll keep the rail, will hit the stopper and keep the drawer from sliding out. But for now, we need to leave that open so that we can put the drawer in after we have finished assembling the cabinet. So that's a 1x2. And 1x4 here. Now I kind of wish the rails didn't All of my rails are gray. I actually have a few white ones, but almost all of them are gray. And since they're these big bricks, they create this big swath of gray along the side, which I really don't like aesthetically. I think it would be nicer to have plates, or to have this be not always gray, to have this big chunk of gray. But if you're like me, you use the blocks, the bricks that you have. Okay, now we're going to attach these two windows here, not to each other. They're going to go side by side. There's one and the other. You can see this is starting to be really solid. That's what we need out of this. This only has a couple of moving parts that are going to go in here, but it's big and it has a hole in it, so it needs to be pretty solid still. Let's link these window pieces together. Plate. 3. You can tell we kind of have a seam here, but a seam that's one brick and one plate high isn't the worst. If you start having multiple bricks stacking on top of each other, that creates a seam. That's a weakness, and you need to make sure that you don't design that way. This one goes one in, and then this piece is going to hang over the edge. Again, you can see this is where this block will fit. So when we come back and put the drawer in, we'll have to actually kind of wedge that open to fit it. But for now, it's just open. Building your own puzzle box is one of, I think it's very satisfying. It's really hard. I've been doing this for a few years now. I've been trying so hard to design puzzle boxes that you can hand to people without giving them too many rules that they won't break. But it's hard. They're made out of Legos, and so they break. But this is one of the more solid constructions that I've built. And I think I've only had people break it twice. Once by sort of disassembling it, and another time they dropped it and it just shattered into hundreds of pieces. But so this is the drawer. There's the bottom. It's got this hole in, which is going to give us a button to release the drawer. It's got these windows, which are really kind of set up this slick where the prize money is in the drawer and the president is looking out at you, sort of to give the user extra motivation to continue and not give up. And then we have right where the drawer is going to slide in. This piece will eventually come in here and lock the drawer in place. Just want to make sure that everything's kind of pressed in nice and firm so that it doesn't snag or break when people use it. Now we're going to build the drawer that slides inside the cabinet and holds the money. Notice that there are a good number of corner pieces here. These corner 2x2 corner plates are really important in designing puzzle boxes because they let you change directions, but also without using weak pieces. And so they're strong and let you change directions. Notice we also have this strange piece here. It's a rail. It's a 2x1 plate modified with a sort of a Technic rail on it here. and we have our first money piece. There's going to be a number of these. These are clues to solving the puzzle box. And they're also a 1x2 tile, which means that on the bottom there's no tube or rod to get in the way. And so this is another piece that can have this sort of sliding motion. If you put it on a stud, it can slide back and forth, and that's a mechanic that I really like to use when I design puzzle boxes. So we're going to start here with just the base. And again, we like to just lay out the pieces we're going to use. We'll attach them and strengthen them up a little bit later. So here we have this 4x8 plate and a 2x2 corner plate. I'm just going to put them together that way. And now we're going to sort of build up the side wall and attach this. So let's get going here. This little hook, this is really going to be a hook at the end, is what locks this drawer in place. It's really important when you're designing these to just make sure that you're sort of weaving in and staggering plates that you use to build the walls. That's what gives them strength. We're going to use our only brick now. It's going to go just right here. 1x1 tile. There. And it's these 1x1 tiles, after you finish the assembly, you're just going to want to come in and make sure that they're just sort of square. That'll help them not snag. A lot of times they will snag, but you can just sort of press them in and they'll eventually sort themselves out. But it's better to get them sort of square to begin with. And here comes our 1x2 plate with the Technic rail. The Technic rail is going to go on the outside, right there. And our 1x1 plate comes in there. And I'm going to use 2 of these corner plates to sort of give us a little something to grab onto here. Use a big long one. This is going to give it some structural integrity. Pressing these in. And a 1x3 tile. These aren't that common. They're not rare, but they kind of, for most of us, are limited. Place this one here out on this platform. Just continuing to build up the walls. Even firmer here. Let's see. Yeah, this one is right here. So I've left 4 here for this other tile. 1 here. Now I like to hide this first clue. If you want, you can put this $100 bill right here, and then the people will be able to see it right at the very beginning. And that's kind of a nice look. But I've been liking to hide that piece so that they have to work for their first sort of reveal about what's this 100. So this is no longer just an openly seen one, it'll be hidden. And now, so this is the drawer. It's got this rail that sticks out here on the side. It's got a little hook. It's going to keep this thing in place. And the money is going to come right here, or whatever prize you want. And so now we have our cabinet, we have our drawer. This should just slide right in here like this. And then we're going to take the 1x1 brick, and I'm just going to lift this up here. If you want, you can use a tool sort of to pry it open. Just put that in, and now it's locked in. The drawer is not going to come out now. And that's it. That's how this moves. You just want to come back in and make sure that all these little square tiles are really actually square and aligned well. And that's it. So now that we have our drawer assembly complete here, it's not actually complete because we need a way to lock this in place. And what we're going to do is create a little lock that comes through this hole right there. So I've got 3 bricks here. These are bricks, 1x1, a 2x2, and a 2x2 corner. And I don't usually like to use a 2x2 brick. It's really big and it takes up a lot of space. It is sturdy, but usually that's not worth the trade-off when you have these corner bricks. But for this button, it's a perfect fit. So we're going to start with our 2x2 brick. We're going to add on top of it 2x2 corner brick, just like that. These locks are pretty intricate and they're designed to be just so you have to really pay attention to get them just right. The next thing I'm going to do is place a 1x2 plate. Let's put that back now. It's not strong yet, but it will be. And then we're going to take our 2 1x3s, just kind of lock them in here. So now we have 2 arms sticking out. We'll place this one here, and then we'll make it really strong using this. Okay, take our 1x1 here, because that's going to come up another level. We'll use one of our 1x1 plates here. One by 3 tile. That's there. Our 1x1 brick top. Then we have 2 1x1 tiles to finish it off. Now notice again, this piece here can kind of spin a little bit and we don't want that. So after you've pressed this in to make it really tight and strong, I like to lay it flat. Press that way a little bit too, just to make sure everything is nice and square. So that's our lock for the cabinet. And what we're going to do is just very simply drop this here. Now when it's nice and snug-ish, you shouldn't be able to push this in. So this kind of needs to raise up a little bit and slide into there. And then it re-drops down and locks this in place. Okay, this isn't a lock that someone could just really yank on this and keep it in place, but if you're grabbing this thing from the front, you know, there's only so much force you can apply before you realize, hey, this is not going to open. And we have this little piece sticking right out here that's going to interact with everything that comes above this. So this is it. This is the bottom of the puzzle box, and we have this little button that you can push. When you push it from the bottom here, it releases this locked drawer, and this can slide in and out. All right, that's it. So now we're going to get into really the most intricate part of this design. It's what I'm calling the mechanism. This is going to rest on top of the cabinet that we just made, and at the very end of the mechanism of the solution, you should be able to press this button and unlock the drawer. There's a few things I want to say before we get started. One is this might be hard to see what I'm doing, so I'll try to do a good job just showing you where I've placed the different pieces. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about is these 1x2 plates. I sort of previewed that earlier, that these can slide around on a stud because they have nothing underneath. If I take a 1x2 plate, you'll see there's a little tube right here in the middle, and that prevents that from sliding around. The 1x2 tiles don't have that. What the 1x2 tiles do have is a little groove right along the edge, so you can get your fingernail under there to pull them off if you misplace them. So even if you decide to not use these $100 bills, which really stand out in the side and give clues about what steps should come next, you could replace all of these $100 bills with just a standard 1x2 tile. But there still might be a little clue to a pro who knows to look for these little sort of gaps along the edges. So let's get started. First, what we're going to do is lay out the base of the mechanism, and it's just this. This is a 6x8 plate and a 2x2 corner plate, and this is the bottom, and we're going to push this 1x6. Sorry, it's a 2x6 right up to it, and that's going to be where we start. So let me just kind of move these others out of the way so it's clear. And this piece on this corner is gonna sort of just be floating out there by itself for a little bit, and that's fine. But let's get started. 1x2 brick. This 1x6 plate comes here. Okay. 2x4. And don't worry, I know this is floating and that seems like bad design. It's gonna be fine. There's plenty of structure in this box and the way that attaches. And we'll take another corner plate right here. 1x1. Okay. And that green plate should be pretty firmly attached now. Okay. Now we're going to add a bunch of tiles on. One thing I should point out is that this is not actually a tile here. This is a slope. See how some people call them cheese wedges. I just call it a slope. So don't grab that one. Save that one for a little while. We're going to take one of these ones here and push it right in on this little hook that's sticking out. Take it. 1, 2. And this is where a lot of sliding occurs on top of these gray tiles. Pieces move on top of these, and that lets the solution sort of happen. Okay. Again, And I'm going to take this little square piece, because that can kind of twist around, just kind of make sure that that's pressed on well and that it's aligned and square with the rest of the box. Okay. 1x3 plate. 1x2. Try to save these green ones for the exterior coloring, whereas these gray ones in the middle don't matter quite as much. So on interior, I try to use colors that I don't care as much for. Here's our 1x3 brick. This is a full brick, not just a plate. So it's 3 plates high. And I'm just going to kind of come back in and press this down, make sure everything is tight. There we go. Okay, a couple of $100 bills. Now I like to face these with the 1 coming out rather than the zeros. So I always try to orient those with the 1 facing outward, because as this pops out, that way they know it's $100. If you did it the other way, you might, well, I guess 1's a pretty low number to be in front of a couple of zeros, but you're not going to see that it's a 100, whereas this lets you do that. Here comes another one. It's going to come right here. Okay. We're going to place a 1x1 brick. This last big 2x4 tile is coming right there. Press that in nice and good. 1x3. 1x1 tile. Our other big plate, it's going to butt right up against that. Now we're gonna right there. Now we gotta butt this back up here. Okay, this is a 1x3. It's gonna cover that. So notice that can still push out. That's fine. That's what we want. Right, so here's a good example. You can see that's not really square, so I want to come back in on these. Whenever I use a 1, I really want to make sure it's aligned the way that I want it. I don't like to use these 1x1s, but sometimes they're necessary. After I place the next couple here, I'm going to pick this up and show you what it looks like. Let's get one more. I'm going to just hold this here for you. We can leave this hanging off here for now. That's not important. It's more important to see just what this is looking like. Everything has be just so, or it won't work. And it's very annoying if you're solving a puzzle and the puzzle doesn't have a solution. And so you don't want to do that to your friends. I'm assuming they're friends or family, because if you're giving them money, putting money in it for a prize, it's probably not somebody that you dislike. All right, let's continue on here. Now I'm going to put this back over here because this is going to connect now. This is a 1x4 and I have 4 studs. Push that in, just nice and snug. You know, that's just hanging there right now, and that's okay because this attaches to the cabinet. I spent a lot of time trying to make Lego puzzle boxes that you can just hand to people and that they can solve, and it's very hard. People break them because they don't know how much force to apply. And this is one that has probably broken the least of all of the ones that I've designed. It's pretty sturdy, and I'm kind of proud of it. But people will break it, and people who don't know what to do, if you just hand it to them, they'll start to disassemble it, and that's really not what you want. So you need, one of the things you should tell people when you hand them a puzzle box like this is, you know, if it's meant to move, it will move. It might require a little jiggling, but not excessive force. And you want to tell them, don't take it apart. Right? That's not what it is. It's something way cooler than that. The pieces move. They don't disassemble. Okay. Let's keep moving. Now this slope, so this is a 1x3 I just placed here. This slope, it messes with people a lot. That's why I put it in there, because they think it means something, or that there's, you'll see once it's finally assembled, it kind of nags at them for some reason. So I like to include it. Okay, our 2x1 brick comes right here. This 1x3 covers that money. Oh, notice didn't orient that one correctly, so I'm just going to fix that. And this one is actually also not oriented correctly, but I just want to leave it that way because it's still facing the person who's going to be solving it. 2x1. 1x3, 1x2, 1x3, on top of a 1x3 or 1x2. Okay, getting close. Just here. I think that's it. That's it. Now, why did I have these pieces? You know what? One of these is from another set. I'm pretty confident I don't need these pieces. So, I'm just gonna move them to the side. Extra pieces. Okay, this is what we have. Okay, this is not very strong right now. I wouldn't push on it. You definitely want to squeeze the pieces in tight, but you don't want to put any shear stress on this or twisting motions right now, because it's pretty sensitive. But what it's going to do is rest right here on top of our cabinet. I bet you can see where that hook is going to lie. It's going to go right here. So here I've got the drawer coming out right there. on that side. This hook just rests right there. I'm just going to sort of gently at first push this on. Okay. That's it. All right, you're through the hard part. All right, there's one more little piece here. I call this the cradle. It probably is such a small thing it doesn't even need a name. Basically I have two 2x2 corner bricks, a 2x4 plate, and a 2x1 tile. And so I'm going to place this, or it's a 1x2 tile technically. It's going to go right there. And then my 2 bricks are going to come here, and we're making the cradle. And that's just going to rest right here. Okay. One thing I want to show you right now is if you look on the sides, you can see these little money pieces are darker green. And so that's what I was saying, they kind of provide clues to the solver here about what the next step is going to be. Now they're not so easy as that's what you push, but they sort of can just guide the person, and when they reveal one, that it shows them that they're on the right track. Okay, one other thing I want to show you is this little button here is locking the drawer. And so now when I push it up, it stops, and I can pull this drawer out still. Okay, if I don't push the button in, let's say I hold it in place. If I tug, I can't pull that in. As soon as I press the button, I'm pressing it on the bottom here, this piece right here. So right now gravity's just pulling it in and depressing it, and the drawer comes out. Now we're going to assemble the minor key. This is just a little loose piece. It sits inside and it's kind of locked in place, and it locks other things in place. It's the minor key because it's small, not because it's musically interesting. So what we're going to do is start with this 2x2 corner. We're going to take this 1x3 and leave just a gap there. The gap should be enough for one piece, like that. That's it. Then we're going to take the 1x4 and lock that in place. So there's this one piece that just kind of swivels right now, but we want that to be nice and square if we can make it. 1x1 tile, 1x1 plate, tile. This is a 1x3 tile, rest right here, and finally a money with the $100 facing in that direction. And this comes now in and rests right over top of this money piece here. So I'm just going to take this in here, just kind of set it in. Now this is where you can press it in harder to make sure everything's snug and square. That's it. And if I'm holding this down this way, if I pull that tab, it shouldn't be able to come out. That's by design. Alright, now we're going to make the flipped key. You'll see why it's called that in a moment. But to start this one off, we're going to put our 1x2 plate here. Okay, we're going to take one of these 2x2 corners and arrange it that way, and then take the other 2x2 corner and arrange it that way. So I should have 5 studs in a row here with one arm here and 2 sticking out there. And now I'm just going to seal this in place using these tiles. So it's a 1x6, and this hangs out over the edge. See, these are 1x2 here. by one. And finally, I want you to flip it over and take this round 1 by 1 plate. It's important that this is round and not square, or this will cause the key to hang up. And I want you to place it right here in this corner of this one here. Upside down. I don't usually use glue, but this would be a good place for it because it can come loose. I've only had it come loose once, and I'm not sure if I've had any other problems with it, but seems like a good place for glue. I want you to leave this upside down. And what we're going to do is we're going to place this right back in our puzzle box, right there. So this is actually protruding out 2 brick widths. And it's just resting in this little channel here. And that's that. Now we're going to make what I call the irksome button. It's irksome. It was irksome to me because designing this button was proved to be more difficult than I thought it should have been. But it also messes with people. They see this and they really want to poke at it, and they can get misled by what it's actually doing or when it's supposed to be pressed. There's several interesting pieces here. First we have these 2 by 2 corner tiles. So these aren't totally rare, but most of us don't have many of these. We also have this 1 by 2 Technic brick that has this X hole through it, or a cross, so that a Technic axle can pass through there. Okay, we've got 3 of these, and there's more of these later in the design. And then we have the Technic axle, and there's 2 things I want to show you about this. One is that Have used a Technic axle. These kind of come in 2 styles. One style is where both sides are sort of open, so it can pass all the way through, and the other style doesn't really allow that because it's got this cap on the end. So I've used one with a cap here on the end. The other thing I would say is I really tried to get this just so, and to do that I ended up clipping using wire cutters. I clipped the end off, and so I just want to tell you what the actual measurement that I have here is. So I'm going to bring out my ruler and line this up with just the outside surface of that nail head. And when I look at this, I've got this at 1 3/4 inch, but it's just a little bit shy of that. It's just a 1/16 of an inch shy of that. So what would that be? 1 11/16 inches, and it tends to be just perfect. After I cut them, I actually put it in a flame for just a couple of seconds so that it's nice and malleable, because when you use the wire cutters on this, it will sort of it'll just kind of crimp the end, and you don't want that. So I'll just put it in a little flame just for a couple of seconds and then push it through one of these holes just to make sure that it's the right shape. And then it cools off quickly. All right, so to get started here, we're going to take 2 of our Technic bricks, line them up side by side, and I'm going to press my axle through all the way until it stops. Okay, then on the underside I'm going to take my 1 by 2 plate and I'm going to put it right here so that it looks like that. Okay, then we're going to take the other Technic brick here, and just push it through, and oh, see, I've pushed the rod through, the axle through, so you can hold the axle in place, push it through. You want to leave about room for 1 brick, I would say. And then we're going to put this here, this 2x2 plate, and actually I misspoke. We're going to leave room for several bricks there. We're going to take this one here that doesn't have a hole in it, and so you can see the motion here is really to push. This button pushes that axle through, and you can push that axle back out, and it pushes the button back out. So this is a common technique that we like to use. Use this 1x2 tile and a 2x2 corner tile, just so that it sticks out right there. And I've got one more here, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. That one's not really part of this, but it kind of is. So what we're going to do is go back to our assembly, and I'm going to take this corner tile, and I'm just going to place it right there. Okay, that's it. Now, and that just sits in here loose. That's fine. Then we're going to take this with the nail head poking out and place it right here. Oh, see, I didn't have that completely lined up. That's okay. And you'll notice when I push this in, there's just a little bit of this rod sticking out. And that taunts people, and they can kind of push this in just a little bit, and that taunts people also. Okay. Again, I'm not a big fan of glue, but one thing that people tend to do is pull this nail head out. That doesn't ruin the puzzle box any. If they pulled the nail head out and really were sort of midway through their solve to the point where you wouldn't really need to have that out, and they shook the thing really, really hard, it's possible that this loose piece could slide through here, but I've not experienced that. If you did want to put a little bit of glue right here at the edge of this button to sort of lock the lock the axle to this button so that they can't pull it out, that's fine. You can do that if you want. It really doesn't need it though. Now we're going to make what I call the catena, which is like a concatenation. It's really a daisy chain of these tiles where one is going to push another, which is going to push another. And each one rests on a stud. If you have too many of these in a row, it becomes too much resistance. The more resistance that's required, people don't want to break it, which is a good. And so if you have 4 or 5 of these in a row, it might be too much. I found that 3 is a good number where the resistance is satisfying, and that it might be a little bit much resistance for people at first, but if they keep at it, they'll realize that it's not going to break. So let's get started here by arranging. We're actually going to start with 1x3 here and a 2x4 plate. Another 1x3 goes here, and the 2x2 corner comes here. It just kind of sits there like this. Notice I found this was the other corner piece that we had an extra piece for. It was part of this assembly. Let's just keep going. So we're going to use the 1x4 plate here. We're kind of going to just leave this cutout, this little L-shaped cutout. Let's see, what do we do next? Oh yeah, we're gonna use this plate here, 2x4. Just gonna sit there, locking those together. 1x3 sticks out one notch there. This other L corner shape covers that hole. 1x1 tile and a 1x2 tile. So maybe you can start to see where this daisy chain starts to come together, right? There's 1 and a smooth, 2 and a smooth, and 3. So we can have 3 of these in a row right here. Before we do that, let's just bracket that in. So it's a 1x4. It's going to sit right there. And our other 2x4. It's going to sit there. 2x1, or 1x2, I should say. And a 1x1. Okay. And now let's just put these in. The 1 faces out. There. Great. And the final plate just sticks out. That's it. Now, where does this sit? It sits back over in the area that we were working. So notice we have this little L-shaped area here. That is going to align with this little the little round piece that we put on the flipped key. So we're going to turn it this way. This one overhanging piece should cover this money tile, and this piece that's sticking out should fit right in behind the button. Just like that. Press it in. Make sure everything's nice and snug. If you push too hard on the wrong direction there, that piece tips. So just make sure not to do that. In fact, if you want to just keep it that way so that only a quarter of each of these tiles is out for now, that might be more stable. All right, now we're going to do the falling mast piece. I've laid this out in a way that actually facilitates assembly rather than organizing it by pieces. So things are going to sort of assemble in this order. Call it the falling mast because it's got this big Technic rod right here. It's pretty big, and it lays sideways like a fallen mast. There's a lot of sort of strange pieces here, so let's go through those. First is the rod itself. This is kind of another rare piece to have a Technic rod. This one is, I think, let's do a quick measurement here. 3 3/4 inches long exactly, and that's 12 bricks long. So this is actually the same length as the puzzle box here. If you don't have a Technic rod that's that long, you can actually get away using 2 Technic rods, and where you put them, well, it depends, but I would just put it right here in the middle if you have 2 6s. If you have ones that have that head on the edge, I would use 2 of those and have them butting up and pushing each other. And I have done that before and it works. Also, we've got these 1x4s with only having the studs on the ends. Don't really know what that's called, I can't remember. And then we've got another one of these sort of not super rare, but still kind of, we probably don't have plenty of them, 2x2 corner tiles. We've got a lot of Technic bricks here. Only one 1x2 standard brick, and the rest of these are either have the rod, the axle pattern, or they're just a hole. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the pattern, with the rod protrusion pattern that sort of provides resistance as it pushes through. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. that are the other way. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's right, because the reason that doesn't add up to 12 is because there's actually one missing, and that's where I had put that slope previously, this slope piece right here. Anyways, let's start assembling this. We're going to push these two together, and first thing we're going to do is take our two 1x2 and lock those together. Now these other side doesn't actually lock, so we're going to use one of the 1x2s. It's just going to kind of sit up there right now, and then this other tile, the corner tile, is going to sit out, so it makes this little arm. And we're going to lock all of that in place with a 2x4 plate. Now you kind of want to come back in here and squeeze all of this together, make sure everything's kind of flush and square, and it is right there. Then we're going to start by putting our brick on the end. And so notice how this has a hole kind of coming through it there. It's also got this arm. And I'm just going to place these in order. So we have a rod brick, a rod brick, and a rod brick. So that's 3 with the protrusion cut out. It fits nice and tight. And then what we're going to do is take our rod and put it through this one and slide that in. So that's just kind of hanging now. And you want to get that all the way to that final brick where it can't go any further. So we've got one that's just hanging there now. The rest of these start to go on. So a couple of circles. You can put whatever colors you want here. I kind of wanted it to look pseudo-random. And then we're going to take these other 2 here, and so I've only got 2 left. I'm going to place these like that on that green plate and push it through. And then the final ones go on. And this should stick out by 1 brick width because it doesn't go all the way through to that last brick. And you have just enough room here for a gap for our slope. So I'm going to spin this around now. The little arm is going to go just behind this $100 piece. Let's start lining this up here. And you've got this moving piece here that should give it you might have to adjust this last piece too. So as you're placing this on, you might have to adjust these pieces on the rod until it fits nice and smoothly. Don't be rough with it, be gentle. Then once it goes in, it's on nice and good here. And now when I push this arm, it should push out that big modular brick that we built at the first. When you push it back in here, this $100 piece should be sticking out. That is the fallen mast. The major key. I guess it's happier but less interesting. No, it's a bigger key. That's what it is. So that's why it's the major key. And again, we've got one of these 1x4 plates with studs only on the end. And so I've laid this out again, kind of how it assembles. So I'm going to start with this piece here on the bottom, and I'm going to place this piece on top there. And then this one just kind of butts up to the end. So now that's got that little 1x1 just on the bottom. Okay, next, this 2x2 plate comes on right there. And then this is a 2x3 plate, and it's gonna kind of sit onto here. But since I've got this piece on the bottom, maybe I'll just take that off for a moment so that this can all sort of set flush when I put this on. Like that. Maybe I'll put this piece back on the bottom right at the end. Bring this 1x6 plate, place it there, and a 1x6 tile comes right next to it. And finally, this is a 1x8 tile. It goes right there, and it's got a length 2 overhang. And let's just put this 1x1 plate right back where it should be. Just try to line it up, squeeze it tight. Okay, now this key, I think you can probably tell where it's going to sit. It's going to sit right in here. It's going to cover this money, and it should just drop nice in right there. There's nothing holding it in really, it's just kind of wedged in there, but it sits loosely. If you push the money tile back in here, that should now sit kind of flush. Okay, now we're going to put the ceiling on, but it's not so easy as just putting the pieces on, because there's actually some pieces that are just hanging here, and so we have to assemble them to the underside. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this. So what's this? This is a 4x12 plate, 4x6. And that's a 4x4, 2x4. So I'm going to take this 2x4 piece and put it on the end. Then I'm going to take this 4x4 piece, put it on the other end. Just really press these plates in there because these can kind of warp. So you really want to press them good. And then this 4x6 goes in. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach these suspended pieces. They're going to be suspended the underside here. And I think you'll be able to see how these kind of work. There's going to be one that sits in this groove here. That's a 2 deep groove. And there's going to be another one that sits in this 1 deep groove here. And so I've actually got this oriented 180 degrees, so maybe it'll help if we switch it to that way. And let's take our 2 1x3s and just assemble them quickly this way. And those are going to go kind of right here, but on the underside. And this one's going to go right here. So when I'll maybe line those up so you can see, but I'm actually going to flip this over. And this 1x2 goes right there. And this stacked 1x3 with 2 1x3s stacked here goes right like that. Press them in nice and tight. And then bring the puzzle box back over, and these should just fit really nicely there. Nice and snug. So see how this major key now is all built around? That's it. Alright, we're getting close. Alright, the final step is just to put on the ceiling. So you're going to use a bunch of tiles for this. What tiles you use isn't that important, as long as you'll notice we've got these tiles with a center stud. So these are 2x2 tiles with a center stud on top, and the reason we need those is to attach the key. So you remember I said earlier that we don't really disassemble the puzzle boxes, but sometimes we do want to attach a key, and so I usually like to use these kind of tiles where the key is only lightly attached, and to make sure to use a color for a key that really stands out. I've even taken a Sharpie and written the word key on there before. And so I'm just gonna start attaching these these tiles here. You're going to make sure that these tiles with the center stud are placed just where they are here, because it also locks the first step of the puzzle box. Okay. I'm just going to keep placing these on. You can experiment with different patterns. It's fun to see if you find a pattern that you like. That's fun. So we're just going to keep doing this here. Finally, this one. So that's the pattern that I honed in on. And then you take this, and I call this the first step key. I like to just place it like that. Nice pink color or some color that's not used elsewhere in the puzzle box lets the person sort of know. Sometimes I tell people that that's the first step, is to remove that. That way they don't try to remove other things. But they can sort of deduce that they'll need that because there's a hole here and it's not really clear how you would get in there otherwise. So, so that's that. Oh yeah, there's one other kind of interesting piece, and I'll show you that in just a second. All right, so here I am in the final step, which is to place a $100 bill in the compartment. So the way I like to do this is first to fold it in half this way. And old Ben is still fully on one side, and I fold it over so you got his face there. And then I just kind of use a Lego piece or your finger to kind of roll it into a roll. When you get that, what you're really looking for are those eyes staring out at you. So you can place that in the puzzle box here and just push it in. Oh, gotta push that like that. And I'm just gonna close it up. You can really see Big Ben just staring right out at you, being like, hey, come and get me, but you can't.